Hello, welcome to my YouTube live. It's Tuesday and we're going to be chatting. Let me actually adjust this. It's a little off. Chatting today about your inner critic because first of all, everybody has an inner critic, and especially as creatives, we definitely have an inner critic that likes to rise up and say all of those deep down things that we're thinking or that other people have said to us to try and pull us back. But I think also as creatives of color, as marginalized people, there is extra dialogue sometimes that we may have to deal with. And so talking about and figuring out what's going on with your inner critic is actually really important. So give me 1 second. I want to see about sharing this out. Let's see. Oh, that just did there, but I was trying to share it on Twitter. Anyways, so let me introduce myself. My name is Kristen Iris. I am a creativity mentor and speaker, and I help creatives of color in particular to uncover and dismantle the old oppressive beliefs and conditionings that are holding them back so they can create a paradigm shift in both their creative work and in their lives. So this is something that feeds into all areas of your life. And today we're going to talk about your inner critic. Now, if you are looking at my channel, you can see that I posted a video earlier today. So it's a humorous video about if your inner critic was a real person and the kind of dialogue you might have back and forth with them. Check it out if you haven't. It's quick, but it's humorous. So kind of light up your day a little bit. But I wanted to actually address the inner critic in a more serious way. So not just like in the humorous way. And the thing about your inner critic is your inner critic has like a lot of like bullshit dialogue, all right? And that's the first thing, is a lot of that dialogue that your inner critic has is bullshit. Like it's not, your inner critic does not speak truth. Your inner critic speaks fear. Okay, so that's something I really want you to understand. Your inner critic doesn't speak truth. Your inner critic speaks fear. Now, a lot of times when people talk about your inner critic or that inner dialogue, they talk about like mindset, like changing the phrasing. If your inner critic is like, oh, you're not good enough for this, then saying like, I am good enough, my voice matters. Now, these things are great. Like these are great tools. I do actually sometimes use these tools, especially if I have like a reframe phrase that really, I've already worked through, that really helps me to mindset on a bullet. Okay, hopefully it doesn't disconnect again. But your inner critic is part of you. Your inner critic is the part of you that wants to keep you safe. And that's the thing that you have to remember about it. So that's the second thing. So one is your inner critic doesn't speak truth, it speaks fear. And two, the reason it does that is because your inner critic is trying to keep you safe. So when you start stretching the boundaries of your comfort zone, you start stretching yourself, you start pushing barriers, you start putting yourself out there and being more vulnerable, especially when it comes to sharing your creative work or pursuing creative endeavors. Actually, honestly, in any area of your life, that can be in relationships, it can be in friendships, it can be in any number of areas, in your job, whether your job is a creative job or not, it can be in school. But when you start pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone, it gets uncomfortable because you're pushing the edges of your comfort zone. Now, the part of you, all of us want to like stay as comfortable as possible. And the part of you that wants to stay comfortable, that wants to keep you safe, when you start pushing that edge, it's like, danger, danger, don't go over there. And it'll start saying these things to you to pull you back from the edge, back to where it's safe, back to where you might still be unhappy, back to where you're unsatisfied, back to where you may even be like miserable or feel oppressed, but you know what you're getting. So it's familiar. And in that sense, it's safe. It's not safe because it's easier or because it's happy. It's safe because it's familiar and you know how to navigate it. When you start stretching the boundaries of your comfort zone, you start getting into the unknown. All right. And that's where your inner critic wants to rise up. Or like that internal voice, whatever you want to call it, your inner judgment, that internal voice. So This is why your inner critic is based on fear, and why your inner critic is trying to keep you safe, because it senses danger, or what the unknown feels like danger, even if it's not necessarily danger. It feels like danger. Vulnerability feels like danger. Sharing of yourself feels like danger. So what do you do when, like how do you navigate that? And this is what I do when I work with clients, when I work with creatives of color, is you can't, the reason why I said that mindset can be a band-aid on a bullet wound is because you can change the phrasing, but if you don't get down to the deeper things as to why your inner critic is saying these things, like where does this belief come from? Like a part of you has this belief, otherwise your inner critic wouldn't be saying it. So like, where does this belief come from? Where did you get this idea that you're not enough, that you're not worthy, that nobody wants to hear your voice? These are just some of the most common examples of things that I have heard people, like things that their inner critic has said. And sometimes mine too, to be honest. Like that's why I made that video, because those are things that my inner critic has said. But you have to get down to like, what's the deeper thing? Okay, so for example, if your inner critic, if you're like, I'll even use one from myself. So like, I'm a writer. So if my inner critic is saying something like, well, which this actually doesn't happen to me, but I've had several writers say this to me, that they're like, yeah, but like, why would anybody care what I have to say anyway? Like, so your inner critic is like, why are you even bothering writing this? Like, nobody cares what you have to say. Okay, where did that come from? Like, that's what you have to explore. Like, where did that come from? Why does my inner critic think that way? Like, where is it in my past that this idea was reinforced, that this idea first came about? What are the ways that it was reinforced? Okay, because even if you know that that's not true, like even if you're like, okay, I know that my voice is valuable, that belief and that thought still came up for a reason. And so when you look at, okay, where did this come from? What are the experiences that reinforced it? What are the things that taught me that this is true, even if you know that it's not? What are the things that taught me that it was true? Then you can start to explore like, oh, this is a place that I need clearing. This is a place that I need to unwrite this old story. And you can start digging even deeper down. So like all of those different thoughts, you can start digging deeper down. I was just about to say it can be kind of fun. Sometimes, honestly, it's not so fun because you're digging into like, honestly, some like wounds, some deeper wounds and past wounds from like your history, places where you were made to feel like your voice wasn't valuable, places where you got the message maybe from society or even people in your life that your voice doesn't matter, or that this doesn't matter, or that you're not good enough, or that you're unworthy, or that you're undeserving, or you're not intelligent enough, or X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, the dialogue that's going on for you. You're kind of digging into that wounding, but as you dig into it, you come to a place where you can actually clear it, because you can't clear something that you don't know is there. You don't know what it is. You can't clear what you aren't aware of. And so this is why it is so actually empowering. Like, even if it doesn't feel in the moment like, oh, this is empowering, like, oh, I feel crappy because now I'm remembering all these places where people made me feel X, Y, and Z. And this is why I have this dialogue when I'm trying to do my work. And this is why I'm struggling to do my work. This is why my inner critic and my inner fears and doubts are holding me back and I'm not stepping into it. None of that feels empowering, but discovering why that's happening, that's empowering, because when you discover it, you can do something to change it. And that's what I love about the work that I do with creatives of color, is that we get to dig into those things and look at like, all right, so where this dialogue that's in your head, where did this dialogue come from? What are the old things, and how is this showing up in your life and in your creative work? Like, not just in the situation, like the project that they're working on, but like where else is this showing up that it's still limiting you, so that they can clear that and they can really step into a place of feeling really powerful and feeling like really good in who they are and good about the creative work that they are pursuing, and actually take action on it. So it's really like paradigm shifting stuff, but like honestly, even just for yourself right now, like when your inner critic rises up, pause and be like, okay, where did this story come from? This thing about not being enough. Yeah, like maybe in the moment you just like change the phrasing, you tell your inner critic to shut the fuck up, and you like keep it moving and try to get your work done. But like go back to what those messages were. What's your inner critic saying? And ask like, okay, where did this come from? Where did this story come from? Where did I get this idea? I know it's not true, but it's still like coming up for me, which means that there's still a part of you that's holding on to it. If that's story or phrasing or whatever it is that your inner critic is saying is still coming up for you, and you don't know really where it came from, oh, that means a part of you is still holding on to it. Now, to be completely honest, it doesn't mean that you're ever going to fully 100% like, oh, this is never going to come up for me. Things get really deeply ingrained in us, and so it may resurface, but when you know what the root of it is and you know like where it comes from and you've dismantled it, if it rises up again, you have the tools to dismantle it in the moment, which is really, really empowering. And I do that all the time. I actually did that this weekend I'm designing a program, a group program. And some of my own fears were coming up and insecurities. And I was like, man, this is really old stuff. Like, I already know where this comes from, which is why I was able to be like, oh, this is an old story. This isn't true. Because I already know the root, and I already know like the old stories and the ways that it's been reinforced. Like I've already done that work and dug into it, but it didn't mean that it didn't rise up. It meant that I was able to recognize it and not let it hold me back and be like, oh, okay, this is familiar. All right, that's all right. This is an old story. I got this, you know, and that is more empowering than trying to fake a new belief in a moment when you haven't really dismantled the old one. That's why it's so important to dismantle the old one. So to help you with this, I have a free workbook and video guide called Unblock Your Dream Life. You can use it for, not just like your big vision, but really like if you're in a creative endeavor, if you have like an inner critic coming up, if you're in really any kind of situation where you're feeling stuck or frustrated or blocked, or you're getting like these limiting beliefs or ideas, and you're like, oh, I know that I don't like having these thoughts. I really want to move forward. And you were like, I really want to move forward. Like some people are honestly, they're kind of just content to stay where they are because, like I said, your comfort zone, even if you're not happy, at least it's familiar. But if you're like, no, I'm ready to make a change. I want to clear some of these blocks. Get the free video and workbook guide. I'm going to try and put this and slide my camera back here. I'm going to try and put this in the chat. You can go to kristeniris.com/unblock and get it there. It's completely free, but it is going to help you to explore and uncover the thoughts and beliefs, like those limiting thoughts and beliefs, those inner critic thoughts and beliefs, those oppressive thoughts and beliefs, and where they come from. So some of the deeper things underneath it, that you do know, you do have an idea of like what needs to clear, what needs to heal, what you need to shift out of your path so that you can move forward. So like I said, you can't clear, or you can't clear if you don't know what needs to be cleared. You can't move forward in your path if you don't know what's really blocking it. And so this is really going to help you to actually get clear on what the blocks are. Let me pop this in the chat. Here we go. And if you're on the replay, feel free to like put comments in. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know. And if you're on the replay. Whoa, there we go. Just had me there. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Actually tell me specifically in the chat or in the comments, specifically tell me like your most common inner critic bullshit thought. Like what is the most common, like what's the thing when you're doing your creative work that your inner critic is like tell me what that thing is, like the most common things that it says, because it's bullshit, but tell me what the most common things are that it says and pop that in there, let me know. And then, like I said, go get the free video and workbook guide. You can use the workbook over and over and over. The video is really a guide through the workbook. It walks you through, giving you like a little bit of extra like examples and things like that, but really it's all about the workbook, and the workbook you can do over and over again. So it's a really powerful tool. You can keep using it. And let me see if there was anything else. Like I said, if you're on the replay, feel free to go ahead and comment, and please share this out. share this video, share it on wherever you want to share it, so that other people can kind of hop in on this conversation, because I think it's important to explore your inner critic in more than just, oh, I'm just going to shut down your voice. Your inner critic is talking for a reason. And so instead of shutting down its voice, like, I mean, you do want it to shut up, but like really look at, okay, well, why is my inner critic talking in the first place? Like, what is fueling my inner critic? What's the deeper crap? And that's really going to help you to create a real shift in how you relate to yourself and how you relate to your creative work, or whatever area of your life that your inner critic is talking all that yin yang. So thank you guys for joining me. Please do me a favor, subscribe to this channel. That way you get notifications when I post new videos. I post regular videos for creatives of color. And when I go live, you'll also get notifications. Hit that bell. That will give you the actual notifications so that you know when something new is coming up. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.